Good morning. My name is Jamie Yu from Sunsunanta University. Today, I'm honored to present my research entitled Integrating Local Culture and Digital Technology into Brand Visual Design, a framework from Putian Footwear and Apparel brands. My presentation is organized into 6 parts. Putian China is a major footwear and apparel manufacturing cluster. Puntien produces more than 1.6 billion pairs of shoes every year, with over 4,000 footwear and apparel enterprises and an annual output value of about 140 billion yuan. However, Putian's competitive advantage has long relied on OEM production. This has created the problem of strong manufacturing but weak independent branding. Local brands account for less than 15% of total revenue, and their market presence in the domestic mid to high-end market remains limited. At the same time, digital transformation is reshaping consumer behavior. Young consumers, especially Generation Z, increasingly value cultural identity, personalization, and immersive experience. Putin also has rich local cultural resources, including Mazu belief, Putian opera, and wood carving. However, these cultural resources have not been effectively transformed into modern brand visual assets. This is precisely the motivation behind this study. Previous studies have discussed cultural branding, digital transformation, and footwear industry development. However, most of them examine these areas separately. A research gap is that few studies integrate local cultural resources, digital technologies, and brand visual design into an unfiled business model framework for traditional manufacturing clusters. Therefore, this study has 3 objectives. The first objective is to investigate the structure, key components, and the existing challenges of brand visual design business models adopted by Putian footwear and apparel brands. The second objective is to examine the influence of cultural integration and digital technologies on consumer perception, brand cognition, and purchase intention. The third objective is to develop a cultural digital visual, which called CDV, strategic framework and innovation guidelines for the transformation of Putian footwear and apparel brands. This study adopts an exploratory sequential mixed method design. In the qualitative phase, the study conducted semi-structured interviews with 10 key informants, including 5 industry practitioners and 5 experts in branding and cultural heritage. Field observations were also conducted in 5 retail spaces, including physical and digital spaces. The quantitative phase, 400 questionnaires were distributed to consumers aged 18 to 35 with online footwear or apparel shopping experience. A total of 386 valid responses were collected, with an effective response rate of 96.5%. For data analysis, qualitative data were analyzed through domestic analysis, including open coding, actual coding, and selective coding. Quantitative data were analyzed using SPSS 25, including descriptive correlation analysis, ANOVA, and regression analysis. The questionnaire also showed good validity and replicability with CVI equal to 0.94, IOC equal to 0.91, and crop batch alpha values above 0.80 for all scales. The research findings reveal three major challenges in Putian's brand visual design business models. First, visual harmonization is a serious problem. The study found that 90% of local brands lack an independent visual identity system, and only 23% of consumers can recognize Putian's unique visual characteristics. Second, cultural integration remains shallow. Many brands directly copy traditional symbols, such as Mayusoh status or Puntien opera masks, without modern abstraction. As a result, some young consumers consider these designs old-fashioned and poorly integrated with products. Third, there are digital adaptation gaps. About 80% of SMEs lack professional digital design teams, and most online visual presentations still rely on static images. The quantitative findings also shows a strong relationship between cultural relevance and purchase intention. The correlation coefficient is 0.68 with less than 0.01. Regression analysis further shows that cultural relevance explains 46.2% of the variation in purchase intention. In addition, digital tools improve consumer engagement. In the field experiments, the AR and dynamic visual content group has an average engagement time of 5.8 minutes, compared with 3.6 minutes in the static magic group. The conversion rate also increased from 10.8% to 18.2%. Based on these findings, this study proposed a cultural digital visual CDV framework. The framework consists of three interconnected layers: input, process, and output. The input layer includes the digital context such as AI, big data, and e-commerce channels, Putian's cultural and industrial resources such as Maju culture, Puntien opera, and local supply chains, and visual design theory. The process layer includes three key activities. The first is cultural symbol abstraction, such as transforming Mayusoh culture into Mayusoh blue and abstract wave patterns. The second is digital tool application, including AI-driven design and AR try-ons. The third is omni-channel visual consistency across physical stores, online platforms, and social media. The output layer includes a VIS toolkit, strategic guidelines, and policy recommendations. The VIS toolkits include vector patterns, color cards, and templates, which can reduce design barriers for SMEs and support more consistent brand communication. This study makes both theoretical and practical contributions. Theoretical, it integrates cultural branding theory with digital business model theory by showing that cultural abstraction and digital interactively can work together as complementary mechanisms for brand value creation. It also extends cultural consumption theory from individual brand to traditional manufacturing clusters, using Putian as a case. Most importantly, the study process a replicable CDV framework that links cultural resources, digital technologies, and visual design strategies into an unfiled model for industrial upgrading. Practically, the study provides a VIS toolkit and strategic guidelines for SMEs. It also suggests that local governments can support shared digital design platforms, technical subsidies, and talent training programs. The conclusion is clear. Local culture and digital technology should not be treated separately. When integrated through brand visual design, they can enhance brand differentiation, consumer engagement, and long-term competitiveness. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.